WPIAL podcast, Trib Live High School Sports Network. Our very first WPIAL Football Team of the Week podcast, as we got the ball rolling this past weekend, not only on a new school year of high school sports, but obviously a new high school football season. And there were plenty of teams that stood out in week zero. One of them is our team of the week, the Upper St. Clair Panthers. One of many teams that stood out. Let me just, again, emphasize that. Their outstanding head coach, Mike Junko, is kind enough to join us. Before we start talking about your team and the game Friday, an impressive win over rival Mount Lebanon, I made the point on Friday night that the week zero turned 10 this year. It was 10 years ago that the PIAA came up with this week zero idea to give, I think, most teams at least back to the way it was, a 10-game schedule. If you wanted to wave goodbye to your second scrimmage. And Chris Harlan, my colleague, had a couple of interesting numbers. I knew it was about 50-50, but it really was that first year 50-50 as far as the district teams are concerned. How many wanted to keep their second scrimmage, how many played games. And now I think there were only 8 teams in the district that did not play a game this past weekend. What's your thoughts as this thing has evolved into week zero, and what are you and your staff looking for in what really used to be a week 2 scrimmage?
Yeah, I like the week zero game. I think it's sometimes with that second scrimmage, we were always, you're trying to keep guys healthy, not get guys banged up, or you're not trying to show too much on film. And it really kind of became this cat and mouse game of, do we really need to? And then, we do so much with the kids in the summer now. Maybe in the past they didn't do as much where the second scrimmage had more value, but we've got the kids all summer long. And so I like the week zero. We have been fortunate enough to keep our rivalry with Mount Lebanon intact. We haven't been in the same conference for a long time. And, I know that the split of 6A to 5A, it broke some of those long-standing rivalries because teams couldn't fit them in. So we're fortunate to get them on week zero. And what a great way to start your year, playing your rival. Your kids, they have no choice but to get locked in because, both towns are going to be out there in force, and you're going to be in front of thousands for the very first game. So for us, and that's a credit. That's a credit to Mount Lebanon too, and Upper St. Clair. Their willingness to keep that rivalry intact because they know how important it is to both communities.
Yeah, it's one of the best in the district. This was meeting number 50 between the two teams. Panthers continue to hold the advantage over the Blue Devils. This is the one-game schools. I don't know that fans know this, but this is the one school where where schools can dictate who they're playing. Everything else, your entire schedule is given to you by the WPIAL, obviously circled around the conference games, and then they decide which non-conference games you will have. So a lot of schools have kept those rivalries that have been split up intact. 10-year anniversary of week zero. It's also the 10-year anniversary of the expansion to Class 5A and 6A, 6 classifications instead of 4. I saw a quote from you about how 5A has become like the old Quad A, extremely competitive, so many good teams, so much depth. And I've been sort of banging the drum against 6A, the ever shrinking 6A for a while now, and that it's too predictable. Once you do get into the playoffs, they're all rematches, and it really is taking a lot of the luster out of that. I know you guys are thriving and you got your concerns and worries in 5A, but is that something that can be fixed, or are we just long past that and it is what it is?
I think you got to get the state to change things, and all those teams out east. There's a lot more 6A teams, and so it's just a math problem at the end of the day that I don't know that they'll ever be able to solve. You're right. In the meantime, down at 5A, like I said, you look at our schedule. Nobody's going to raise their hand wanting to go down the road we're going down as far as the number of quality teams we're playing, and then we have the good fortune of also getting to play a McKeesport team that's probably going to be at the top of 4A on our schedule. Yep. So, the WPIAL, in their infinite wisdom, decided that teams that were having success were going to play a more arduous road. And, we were one of those teams that have had a pretty good run lately. And so, we're playing really good football teams. But the end result is, and that's back in the old Quad A, when you're playing good teams and your team is having to go up against them, it makes you a better football team. And so, we really found that out last year when we got this schedule on the cycle that, we found ourselves becoming a better football team because we were just there's no week off. It's every week you're playing a good team.
Yeah, and I think that most coaches would secretly want that rather than a cakewalk to the postseason, and then then you start playing some of the heavyweights, and you're like, whoa, a little bit caught off guard. You guys play in the uber tough Allegheny 6 conference, where last year 5 of the 6 teams made it into the new look WPIAL playoff format, with the district calling the shots on wild cards, which you believe was 2 years too late for that. But
that's the Upper St. Clair rule.
Right. But I mean, it's the thing that you mentioned. It keeps everybody focused, the players. It's going to make you better because it's challenging, the schedule. The one part, though, that you got to be wary of is that you don't want the regular season either taking a toll physically or even taking a toll mentally, that come November you kind of spent.
Yeah, staying healthy is really the key. I down here in the Allegheny 6, I laughed because some of the pundits thought, Bethel or South Fayette, Peters, St. Clair, they won't come back. Moon as well and be as strong. You take one look around week 1 or week 0, and you see that the Allegheny 6 is going to be just as tough of a road. I mean, yep. We're going to kill each other trying to come out of this thing. So last year you're saying 5 were in. Every one of these teams down here is going to be scratching and clawing to be one of those 5 again, and it's not going to be easy for any of us.
Yeah, and all 5 were victorious in week 0 to emphasize your point about how things have changed, but maybe not really. That's the case with you guys, and as now the architect of this program in your 7th year at St. Clair, it's important to keep, because names are going to, good players, really good players are going to come and go, but the good programs find a way to keep plugging the holes and giving younger players opportunities so that when their name's called, they're ready to go.
Yeah, I think, we talk a lot about culture, and, you can have a talented team that has a winning season. The difficulty is doing it year in, year out. And that's really kind of a part of our DNA. And I inherited a lot of that DNA from Coach Render. I don't know the exact stat, but I think it's 24 of the last 25 years or something along those lines. We've been able to get into the playoffs. And so that's the expectation around here. It's the expectation of our administration, of our student body, when they come out to watch a game on Friday night. You mentioned that it was the 50th meeting between us and Mount Lebanon. I think I have either coached or played in well over 20 of those games. I was at Mount Lebanon for 11 years as an assistant, and then, of course, over here now for 9, and then I played 4 years, and so I've been in both locker rooms in that rivalry, and Friday night certainly was no different in terms of the anticipation in that locker room. I felt it many times before.
Big win, 35-14. You couldn't have thought going in that you would be looking up at the scoreboard, walking off at halftime, seeing visitor 35, home nothing. There probably was. It was probably tough to find something that didn't work for you guys on all sides, all aspects of the game in the first 2 quarters.
I think my biggest concern going in, we had beaten them 3 years in a row, and now, okay, you're coming out for a 4th time. So we got some younger kids playing. Are we going to be up? Are we going to take this rivalry seriously? And because you need to bring intensity to this game, and it's week 0, but it's, for these 2 towns, it's a very big deal. And so that was my biggest concern. Are we going to come out of the locker room ready to play? And to our kids' credit, they really did. I think a big part of that game was the fact that our kicker, Jacobo Echeverria, he put every kick into the end zone. And in high school football, when you have to start on the 20 and dig yourself out of a hole, it's a long field. And we were able to keep them pinned, and we in turn had short fields. So that whole first half, they found themselves really not able to get on the other side of the 50, and he had a large part. And then of course our defense, I don't think they had a first down until the 4th or 5th series, and so that was a big part of it.
Echeverria, what a weapon! Not only, as you mentioned, the kickoffs. He wasn't called for from a field goal perspective, but when you're in those tight games, and you will be in a lot of these contests, what a great weapon to have, knowing that he's as good as they get in the district.
He was juiced up. His first kickoff went through the goalpost. So I mean, he's certainly a weapon, and it's a great story. A kid who grew up in Colombia, and his dad loved soccer, and dreamed of his boys playing soccer, and now this is the second son that has come to be a kicker for me.
Wow.
His other son played for me in my first year, and then we've got a third one on the way down in our 9th grade. So they've had to adjust to American football, and that his dad will never be able to live out the dream of watching his boy play soccer. But I'm glad they moved from Columbia to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, well, there's big NIL money for kickers too. So, I mean, it's something to think about. Ethan Hellman, your quarterback, 4-year starter. That's always nice to have, right? Coming into a new season, especially one where there are a lot of missing pieces. But he's a unique 4-year starter in that, it's kind of, it has been at least a run-first offense. Plus, you had the Julian Dahlem factor last year, where he did a lot of damage running the Wildcat. But man, oh man, 17 of 22, 273 yards, 4 touchdowns, all 4 touchdowns in the first half. So it looks like he's ready to go to bring a new aspect to your offense.
I think we had a very good offensive line last year, and we had to replace a number of those guys. One of the other things that as you look at your season and you reflect, we averaged over 35 points a game last year, but we got into the playoffs, and offensively we weren't balanced enough to get down to Acrisure. And this offseason really put a lot of emphasis on making sure that, hey, we got a 4th-year guy, and we've got to get him really driving the train here and being a part of this, being a bigger part of the offense. And so Friday night was really, I think, a statement game for him to say, yeah, I'm going to be a bigger part of this offense. And I challenged him, to play that way. And boy, did he ever. And, when you have a fourth-year guy, you put a lot more of the game in his hands in terms of decisions.
Right.
And he's getting us into a lot of stuff, on the field and calling some things out there, out of the choices we give him. And so that's tough to do with a first-year guy, but he's been around a long time, and he knows a lot of this stuff even better than me. So it was fun to see him have that moment. And, I'm hoping he has many more nights like that where he has a much bigger hand in what we're doing.
One of the new guys on the offensive line is Ryan Robbins. I'm a huge fan of his game on the basketball court. He obviously he's a big young man, thick, and you see a lot of those in basketball down on the blocks, but you don't see the nimble footwork that he brings, and that transfers over from football. And a couple other new faces on the line, but those are guys that got some good size, and there's no reason why this also can't be a dominant aspect of the game when all is said and done.
I love watching Ryan play basketball. His brother, of course, Ty was phenomenal for us.
Right.
But there is a difference between those two down on the blocks.
No doubt.
Ryan goes in there, and he's just a one-man wrecking machine. Guys are bouncing out of the paint. And, so we've kind of looked forward to him. He was behind some really good players for us and gone on to play college football. This is his chance, his opportunity. He's got a number of MAC offers, so that's the kind of reload you want to have, right? A guy like that. And then, our guys like Nate Stoll and Brock Gillespie that played for us last year, they did a fantastic job of sort of establishing a culture for our linemen. And those guys that have been waiting their turn, watch those guys, learn from those guys. And so I was really happy on Friday night that those young guys that got under the lights for the first time, in many ways, they acted like veterans. And the reason they did is because they've watched veterans who knew how to carry themselves on the football field. So looking forward to watching them grow over the next few weeks while we're in non-conference and continue to improve, because they're a hard-working bunch.
You mentioned the defense, your defense. That, to me, is the biggest most impressive aspect of your 35-14 victory over Mount Lebanon is the defense. I'm a big Patrick Smith fan. I think that he can burn you through the air. He can burn you with his legs. And while he had some success running the ball, I think 108 yards on 20 carries or whatever, really shut down the Blue Devil passing attack. 5 of 17 were Smith's final numbers for 112. And again, one of them was a big, long touchdown in the second half when the game was already in the mercy rule. What a performance by the Panthers defense.
I think, one of the things for us, we did graduate a lot of guys up front, but in the back half in our secondary, we had a lot of guys who played a lot of football. And I think that showed on Friday night. Boy, did they do a great job communicating and getting us lined up. And a week zero game.
Which is huge this time of year.
Week zero game. You see it time and time again. And we put on the film, and teams aren't lined up. They're not checking. And so, you have a guy like Nico D'Orazio back there, who's the quarterback of that secondary. You can't find much better in the WPIAL, a kid that's going to go to Brown, very intelligent young man. And he's the kind of kid that can get off the hash and cover half field, but then also show up in the box at 2 yards and make a tackle. And then John Banbury, our middle backer, Pat Smith, we've got a lot of respect for. We've played him for a lot of years. And let me tell you, it takes more than one guy to get him on the ground. He is a load. And, there was a play there in the first half where John, shot through and tackled him by himself. And I thought to myself, my goodness, that is not an easy thing to do, to get that young man on the ground. And so, I felt like our defense, had a little bit of a chip on the shoulder, had something to prove. We lost some guys, and they wanted to show that, hey, for many, many years here at Upper St. Clair, we've played good defense, and that's not going to change.
Another 6A challenge. You guys, the way the schedule is set up with only 5 conference games, a lot of non-conference games building up to your conference opener on September 26th, which, of course, is a huge one against Peters Township. But a nice buildup, I think, when you're talking about right from the get-go, the rival game with Mount Lebanon, another old rival in the South Hills, Cannon McMillan, coming up for your home opener in week 1. You go to Franklin Regional in week 2. Hampton comes your way in week 3, and then the big matchup that you mentioned earlier, a great challenge perhaps leading into the Peters Township Conference opener with McKeesport. Is everything building toward that Peters Township game? Not that that's the only game, because again, after that you have 4 tough ones to close up. But as far as conference schedule is concerned, to me that's a nice little buildup to get to the start of a grueling conference schedule.
Yeah, I think and we've tried to impress upon our kids this year. Last year there were very high expectations, and we didn't do a very good job of stopping and smelling the roses. After Friday night, I reminded our coaches that hey, this is a big moment for us. We've beaten Mount Lebanon 4 years in a row. We're on the road. Enjoy it. This business we're in, it can grind you out. And when you play a schedule like ours, it can grind you out. If you start looking too far ahead, it'll grind you out. Right now, with our kids and our approach, we're doing, and you hear it, everybody says it, the 1 week at a time, but yep. They always say, hey, listen, I'm going to enjoy this one and we're going to get back to work. Well, some coaches say that, but I don't know if they really enjoy it. So I told my wife, hey, I'm going to enjoy this one. I'm going to take a moment, smell the roses, and say, Good. You know what? We've accomplished something. We did something as a program here that's important to our community. And now let's get back to work. And I think I fall victim to, because the expectations are so high here, sometimes we forget that. And it's an important lesson for coaches to learn. And I've had to learn it. So I think it gives our kids and myself a new perspective. And so, it gets you more excited about what's down the road when you say, hey, okay, we've done something. We did what we set out to do. Now let's get back to work.
Boy, I love hearing that, Michael, because it's so true. Even from a goofball like me's my perspective, from the season just goes so quick, because much like coaches, as soon as my Friday night's in the books, I'm already looking at the schedule for the next week. What games, how am I going to build my schedule? Where we're going to do, where guys are going, and the next thing you know, you're down at Heinz Field or Acrisure Stadium, and the season's like, oh man, where did that go? And I know that we try to preach to the players, especially the seniors, hey, this is such a special time in your life. Savor it, enjoy it, especially if you're having success. Enjoy it. But I don't know that same message gets told to the coaches and the staffs, because they work so hard. It's like, as soon as that game's over, all right, what about Cannon McMillan? Just take the time, enjoy the results, enjoy the fruits of your labor, you and your staff, in getting these players ready to have that kind of success, and then get back to work.
Yeah. You got to think of the moments too, and reflect on them that you have on the sidelines with your players, and appreciate those moments, and because there's tremendous pressure to win and have success, and so I think there's a lot more to what we do with these kids, and I need to recognize that more, and our coaches do, and so that's a big part of it.
Yeah. Well, again, the final message I have for anybody that's viewing this: nothing to see here. Just go about your business. There's nothing going on here. But the truth is, Upper St. Clair, as they play again in Class 5A for 2025. Very impressive debut against Mount Lebanon, 35-14. Mike, I know I've told you this before. It's so hard following in the footsteps of a legend. You always want to be the guy who follows the guy who follows a legend. You have done a tremendous job keeping Mr. Happy, Jim Render's legacy going at Upper St. Clair. You guys haven't skipped a beat. Continued success, my friend.
Thank you so much, Don. Yeah, I'm blessed. I get to coach in the community that cares very deeply about football, and a tradition's been established. And my job is to be a good steward and take care of it. And I've been able to put my mark on the program, and I get to coach amazing kids and have tremendous coaches that are with me every day. So I'm more than blessed to be in this chair, and I'll do it as long as they let me.
Mm. I'll talk to your boss. I'll put a good word in for you with Administrator Holzer. Congratulations. Best of luck. It's only going to get tougher, especially once you get into conference play, but continued success to you and the Panthers.
Thanks, Don. Appreciate you.
Mike Junko, head coach of the Upper St. Clair Panthers, our Week 0 WPIAL Team of the Week. Thanks to Chris Lackner, our producer. We thank you for joining us, Rebel Yell Podcast, here on the Trib Live High School Sports Network.